Hi, and welcome to July's upcoming releases. This is going to be a long one, so let's get right into it. As usual, it will be separated in fantasy, sci fi, and horror. And in that category, we're going to cover new releases, and then we'll move on to upcoming installments in the series. And then after that, we're going to jump to all the other genres, and I will cover new releases in the other genres. And as per usual, the sequence will be determined by the UK release date. I will not be listing any US release dates, and all the information on all the books, all the dates, and all the editions will be available in the description down below. And if by any chance I can't fit all of the books in the description box down below, which I think I should be able to, I will pop a comment. So, without further ado, let's get started. And we are starting with fantasy sci fi. There's no horrors this time around, but there's quite a few fantasy and sci fi books that I am personally really interested in that I'm really excited to share with you. And first off, on the 2nd of July, we have Lost in Space by Rebecca Thorne. It is a first book in the new series, and the synopsis for this one sounds absolutely charming, so I think I'm just going to read you the synopsis. Dorian Razner finally aboard a starship, and contrary to Amelia's assessment, it was not a meteoric sign of stupidity. Sure, the alien starship may have been abandoned for a century, and it may be covered in moss now, but it's Dorian's ticket to freedom, regardless of what her ex-captain said. Except Torian's first flight reveals a surprise passenger, the Moss is actually an organic computer with a snarky attitude and serious abandonment issues. The target of its loathing? The immortal alien who built it and then parked the starship with Moss inside and forgot about it. The same alien who just found Torian and accused her of stealing the ship. It will be available in a standard hardback, and oh my god, it sounds absolutely charming. It's genuinely one of the books that I am the most excited about, which is quite inconvenient for my no buy, but I am really looking forward to picking this up once my no buy is done and giving this a go. This sounds like an amazing beginning of the series. At the moment on Goodreads, it is getting incredibly good reviews based on ARCs, so I have incredibly high expectations. And on that same date, on 2nd of July, we get the release of Voyagers by Meg Charlton. When the signal, a mysterious transmission pulsing from the edge of the solar system, arrives, the world changes overnight. Planes are grounded, satellites fail, and speculation abounds. With many believing it could be first contact with extraterrestrial life, humanity holds its breath. But for Alex, a 30-something lawyer who spent years distracting himself from the unexplainable, the signal feels deeply personal, the opening of an old wound. And then the synopsis tells us the story of Alex and how, when he was a 6-year-old, him and his friend, I don't remember the name, I don't remember the name of the friend, Anna. They both got abducted by aliens. They vanished for a certain period of time. They came back completely unharmed, but they believe that they got abducted by aliens. So when these events start happening, he reaches out to Anna and they both start investigating what's going on. Again, this sounds like a really interesting book. I think it's a standalone. It will only be available in hardback, there's no special editions. And again, it's one that I'm really looking forward to, so this is definitely going on my personal TBR. And then once again, on 2nd of July, The River She Became by Emily Varga. It's the first book in a new series, a high-stakes, action-packed romantasy from best-selling author Emily Varga, where a relic hunter searches for an ancient fey object to restore the magic of her world, but must learn to trust her own powers and her heart. It will be available in a hardback, and there's also a special edition. And then on 9th of July is yet another book that I am really interested in, Sublimation by Isabel J. Kim. And the synopsis again sounds incredibly interesting. When you immigrate, you leave a copy of yourself behind, and people sort of get to choose whether they want to still interact with that copy or not, and whether they want to synchronize their lives and their minds and their decisions so both copies are aware of what's happening. So then, if they ever decide to resume life as one person, then they can. But we also have examples of people who leave their homes and leave their other copy behind and they decide to never communicate, so they're not aware of what's happening. And our main character is an example of that. She moves to America and she has decided she's never going back to Korea. She was originally Korean, but she receives news of her grandfather dying, and she receives the news from the copy that she left in Korea, and then I guess they reconnect and whatever happens after that. And this again will be available in a hardback. There's no special editions, and I believe this once again is a standalone. I have heard somebody talk about it and say that it's a really good book based on the arc that they read. I do not remember who that was, but their review was very trustworthy, in my opinion. They were talking really highly of the book, so that got me really interested in this upcoming release. And once again, it's going on my TBR. And then on 14th of July, we get the next exciting release, and it's Dominion by Jean Kwok. I am very sorry if I'm butchering the name. I'm not entirely sure how to properly pronounce it. And the synopsis, again, sounds really interesting. In a world divided into four rival dominions, power is everything, and Ruby Morningale has almost none. 3 years after Annihilation destroyed her homeland and shattered her memories, she lives as an Azure refugee in the dominion of the Silver Tiger, scraping by as a ribbon dancer and hiding her little bit of singing magic. When she wounds a massive battle tiger on her doorstep, she draws the notice of Blake Axefire, supreme metal mage, leader of the Royal Tiger Warriors, and a last man an Azure should trust. His sentence cast her into the bonding, a brutal trial where tigers choose their riders and slaughter the rest. Surviving is unthinkable. And based on the rest of the synopsis, she survives and she ends up in his squad. So that is the continuation of the book, and I'm assuming there's going to be a little bit of romance based on that description. I'm not actually entirely sure. I didn't look at the genres that much, but the book will be available in a hardback. I couldn't find any special editions, so I'm not sure if there's going to be one. And unless I'm mistaken, this is also a beginning of the series. And on 23rd of July, we have another really interesting release, and it's Fishbone Cinderella by Elizabeth Lim. It is a historical fiction fantasy, which I am quite interested in the genre, though admittedly I've never read anything from it, and it's set in 1940s China, and it will be available in a hardback and in an absolutely gorgeous special edition. And then on 28th of July we get The Felicity Complex by August Clarke, and once again, it's a very interesting synopsis. 6 women created in a lab designed to serve the billionaires of the future in a luxury fallout shelter rebel against their programming after the end time arrives. Sounds like a very interesting dystopian novel. I'm quite keen on potentially reading it in the future. It will be available in a standard hardback. Couldn't find any special editions for that one either. And on that same date, on 28th of July, another really, really highly anticipated release, The Demon Star by Jesse Aragon. This one is getting picked up by the Broken Binding Publishing House, and this is also going to be a Broken Binding sci-fi and fantasy chosen book for July. So if you're subscribed to sci-fi and fantasy, sorry if I spoiled it for you, but this is going to be the book. I think that was pretty obvious. Synopsis, again, incredibly interesting. Gods rule this planet, demons stalk at canyons, while kings beg for mercy. Can 3 mere humans rewrite its destiny? It will be available in a hardback and in an absolutely gorgeous special edition. And looking at the previous books from the Broken Binding subscription, if they don't sell out, if they have remaining copies, then I have seen them put those copies for sale on their website. So if this is something that you're interested in specifically the Broken Binding edition, I don't think they're going to separately release their edition for sale, but if there's any remaining copies, then they definitely will be available for sale on their website a couple of months later. And on 30th of July is one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and definitely the most anticipated release of July, and it's Snake Among Swans by Hannah Kaner. I love Hannah Kaner. I love her writing. Godkiller and that trilogy. Godkiller was the first fantasy that I read, the very first fantasy that I read when I got back into reading, and that trilogy has been something that I really enjoyed. I think this one is meant to be a standalone, at least on Goodreads it's showing up as a standalone, but I'm not entirely sure whether that is true or not. And the synopsis sounds really interesting and somewhat. I'm getting a very similar vibe that I got from Godkiller, which is a good thing. I think Hannah Kaner has her pretty unique fantasy writing style. Her books are never really long. She has really interesting characters. She writes very powerful women that really know what they want and really fight for what they want. So I think this book definitely hits that spot. So, the synopsis: Tilda is the only surviving heir of a conquered land. To unite the people and finally stop the bloodshed, she marries the aging warlord, King Lyrian. Her duty is to bind their nations and bear him a son. But the Swan King's court is dangerous. Tilda is a threat to the claim of Lyrian's older sons, who will do whatever it takes to remove her. To the Princess Elise, who has only ever known loyalty to her family, and to the priests who own them all. Yet none of them know that Tilda is a snake in their midst. With allies on her side and dark forbidden power of her own, she wants her kingdom back and she will sacrifice everything to claim it. Truly sounds like a really interesting book. It will be available in a standard hardback, and we have two special editions, one from Waterstones and one from the Broken Binding. And they're both absolutely gorgeous. I am really, really patiently waiting for the Broken Binding one to arrive at my doorstep. I have pre ordered it and I cannot wait. And there's two more books coming out on 30th of July that I am really excited about. And one of them is The Sixth Nig by Daniel Kraus. The Sickness, a ship woven from biomatter and capable of reacting to every need of its human crew. Cecilia, a 9-year-old cultist with a brain enhanced by arcane tech known as Nyx, has boarded to investigate the enigma of Fem, a plague ridden planet, and has abruptly gone rogue. It will be available in a special edition. I haven't found just the standard hardback, so the only edition that I have found is the one that has a beautiful blue sprayed edge. It doesn't really have any drawings on it, it's just a solid blue sprayed edge, but the cover looks really beautiful. I have heard really good things of the author, though I'm not familiar with his writing, and I have heard really good things of this upcoming release, so again, I am quite interested. And the last, but definitely not the least, is sort of a cozy sci fi that I am again really excited about. It is The Infinite Sadness of Small Appliances by Glenn Dixon. In a near future where even the smallest of appliances are sentient, a young Roomba vacuum sets out to save the human of her house from a rising technological power. It will be available in a standard hardback. I haven't found any special editions. It sounds like a really, really charming book, and I really look forward to maybe potentially someday reading it in the future. And moving on, there's quite a few next installments in the fantasy and sci-fi series. And starting off on 7th of July is The Exquisite Torment of Loving Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. It is a second book in Dearly Beloved series. It has really, really good reviews. The first book was quite interesting to many people. I think quite a few people enjoyed it. I believe it is a rewrite of a Harry Potter fanfic, though please correct me if I'm wrong, and it will be available in a hardback and in a special edition. Unfortunately, there were two gorgeous special editions, one from Illumicrate, one from Fairy Loot. I believe both of them sold out very, very quickly because the first book was quite popular. And reading the reviews of the arc of the second book, it looks like the second book is an absolute smashing success, though I do see that happen a lot with the series where the first book gets slightly lower reviews and then the people who like the first book continue reading onto the second and the third and etc. So the second and the upcoming books usually have higher reviews than the first one. And then on 14th of July, Six of Crows, Letters from Ketterdam by Leigh Bardugo. It's not exactly a book. I will be honest with you, I don't exactly know what it is. It's 64 pages of magnetic short stories. That is at least the description that you get on Waterstones. I believe it is meant to be sort of a collector's edition of like these magnetic letters that you can connect together. I'm not entirely sure. I have seen some of the pictures of the inside and they do look absolutely beautiful. They're letters with some illustrations and they're meant to look like letters. So if you love Six of Crows, then I do believe that this is going to be something that you would potentially be interested in. It is coming out in that collection set. I haven't seen any other editions or any variations from other retailers. I've only seen sort of the standard version that is going around. And then on 16th of July, we have a writing duo of Bree, Grenwich, and Parker Lennox. And they're coming out with Duskbound, and it is a second book in the Esperian trilogy. It is very highly rated. I have looked at all three books, and the second one is the highest rated of the three. It was originally indie published in March 2025, and now the entire series has been picked up by a traditional publisher, and it will be available in a hardback and in a Waterstones exclusive edition. And then on 16th of July is the book that I am quite excited about. It's a Forsaken Prophecy by Stacey McEwan. It is a second book in the Artisan trilogy. It will be available in a hardback. And I'm excited about it because I really like Stacey McEwan. She's one of the few or maybe only authors whose book I picked up because I kept seeing her reels and she was coming across as such an incredibly wholesome person, such a real person, and such a nice and funny person. So I just really wanted to read. I picked up the Forbidden Alchemy. I have it on my shelf. I'm planning to read it sometime soon this year. So if I enjoy the first book, then I'm definitely going to pick up the second one. But if you have read the Forbidden Alchemy, please let me know if you liked it or not. I am quite interested. And then on 16th of July, we also have The Gilded Blade by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It is book 3 in the Grandest Game series. It will be available in a hardback and in a Waterstone special edition. I am unfortunately not familiar with the series, but I know that Inheritance Games, that was written by the same author, has received a lot of praise, so I am sure the series is none worse. And then on 16th of July, we have Platform Decay by Martha Wells, and it is the 8th installment in the Murderbot Diaries. It will be available in a hardback. And I'm quite excited for the continuation in the series. I have only just started, I've only read the very first book, but I really want to continue and I really want to get through all the Murderbot Diaries. I have only heard wonderful things about the series and I really enjoy her writing. I really enjoy the books. They're really short, so they're quite easy and quick to get through. So, really excited for continuation. And then to finish off on 21st of July, we have Prince of Swords by Elise Kova. It is book 2 in Arcana Academy series. It will be available in a hardback and in a special edition. And that is it for fantasy and sci-fi. There's a lot of books. There's a lot of books that I am excited about, but there's even more books that I'm excited about in the other fiction genre. So let's get on to that. And to start off with, on 2nd of July, Everything Was Beautiful and Nothing Hurt by Ben Reeves. And before I move on to the synopsis, what a beautiful name for a book. It's truly a name that just, it kind of lands so well that even without reading the synopsis, I sort of really wanted to pick up the book, which doesn't happen to me very often. With covers, yes, with names, not so much. But the synopsis also sounds wonderful. And our main character is Travis, and his job is to offer people comfort in their final hours of life. And he is very philosophical about it. He's quite young and a little bit naive. He's very handsome, and he sees death as just a part of the life cycle. He doesn't see it as anything tragic or anything bad. So I guess this is quite comforting for him. But he meets Dahlia, a midwife, and her boisterous 8-year-old daughter, Layla, who live across the hall. As Layla and Dahlia come to embrace Travis, it becomes more difficult to maintain the detachment that's allowed him to function for so long. The time together teaches him that what's truly important in life and what might be irrevocably lost in death. And it will be available in a standard hardback, and it's truly one of the books that I am really interested in reading. I don't know how tragic it's going to be, but it just sounds a little bit magical. There's something, though it's not meant to be magical in any shape or form, there is something very dear and interesting about the story and how Travis's character and how his outlook on death changes throughout this book. Though it does sound a little bit sad. I can't imagine this is going to be a very happy book, but I don't know. And then on 2nd of July, we have The Burning Side by Sarah Damoff. When April and Leo's house burns in the middle of the night, they escape with their 2 young children and the quiet knowledge that the fire is not the only thing threatening their family. They retreat to April's childhood home in Dallas, where her spirited parents and siblings provide both comfort and complications. As the family reckons with the aftermath, grief, guilt, logistics, and memories scorched and intact, the fire exposes the cracks already forming in April and Leo's marriage. And we get 4 POVs in this book. We get April's, Leo's, April's mother, and then we get flashbacks into April and Leo's sort of early marriage and how they came to this point in their marriage. It will be available in a hardback, and from what I've seen, Based on the ARC reviews, this is going to be quite a good book. It's getting really high reviews at the moment. And I believe the author's previous book was also quite well regarded. So I could potentially be looking forward to picking one up myself whenever I'm out of my no buy. And then on that same date, on 2nd of July, we have a new release by Lisa Jewell, and it is It Could Have Been Her. It will be available in a hardback and in a signed edition that you can pick up. I don't know from how many stores, but definitely from Waterstones. I will link that down below. Sounds like a very interesting thriller premise. I read one of the Lisa Jewell's books and I quite enjoyed it. I'm also going to her author talk around the release of the book, so I would be quite interested in potentially picking it up and breaking my no buy for that, just because I would be able to sign it and dedicate it at that event. And then on 7th of July, we get Country People by Daniel Mason. Miles Krzelewski, I am very sorry if I'm butchering that, is a devoted husband, a doting father, beloved to his outlandish bedtime stories, and the proud owner of a truffle hunting dog in a land with no truffles. He's also a bit lost, 12 years late, with his PhD on Russian folk tales, and increasingly haunted by a sense that he's become a disappointment to his family. So when his wife Kate accepts a visiting professorship at a prestigious college in the faraway forest of Vermont, he decides that this will be the year he finally moves with his life forward. And it will be available in a hardback, and there's also a signed edition available on Waterstones. And again, it sounds like a pretty interesting book. And then on that same date, we get The Shampoo Effect by Jenny Jackson. Now, that is one that I'm definitely going to pick up whenever my no buy is done, because it sounds like a really interesting synopsis. We have our main character, Caroline Lash, and she arrives in Greenhead, Massachusetts, and she falls in love with this guy, Vin, and they're all a part of the same group that are sort of spending a lot of time together. And another person in this friend group is Vin's ex, and unfortunately, they discover that Vin's ex is pregnant with his baby. And once they find that out, Carolyn sort of gets cast out of the group, and she's quite spiteful and quite vengeful. So she starts exposing all of the secrets of the group, of Vin, of his ex-girlfriend, and of the entire town. And honestly, it sounds like a really interesting premise. She was the author of The Pineapple Street, I believe that was the name of the book. And that book got really mixed reviews, but I have heard really good things about it, though I've never picked it up. But I do think that I want to pick this one. It will be available in a hardback. There's no special editions available, and I think this is definitely going on my TBR. And on 9th of July, we get the release of Mad Mabel by Sally Hapworth. It has been released in US, I think, a little while ago. If I'm not mistaken, it was in April, but we're just getting it in the UK. And the synopsis sounds quite interesting. Our main character, Elsie Mabel Fitzpatrick, is 81 years old, and she has had quite an interesting life. And in that life, there's been a few people disappearing, and nobody would ever expect a little girl or an old woman to be dangerous in any shape or form. I don't really know anything else about the book. It sounds really interesting. I quite like the cover. It has really good reviews based on the people who has read it already, so again, one that I am potentially interested in picking up. And we only have a couple of books left. We have exactly 3. And on 16th of July, we get the release of In Stormy Weather by Chelsea Curto. And it is an academic rivals to lovers romance about storm-chasing meteorologists during hurricane season in Florida. Sounds like a very, very interesting pairing for the romance. It's not something that I've ever seen before. And to be quite honest with you, storm chasers and meteorologists, especially during these storm seasons or hurricanes or tornadoes, are people that fascinate me. So I can imagine how the romance would come out of that. And on 23rd of July, we have Not That Kind of Proposal by Victoria Levine. And it is an enemies to lovers rom-com about a hopeless romantic wedding planner and the cynical divorce lawyer forced to help her to plan her ex's wedding. Again, sounds like a really interesting premise. Both of these books will be available in a paperback. I couldn't find any special editions. And then the last, but definitely not the least, on 30th of July, we get the release of Plant Lady by Kang Min Young. It sounds like a very interesting book. Our main character owns a plant shop, and she's very passionate about plants and very passionate about selling plants, but she also has a side business where she buries toxic husbands of wives who have murdered them. I think that's what I gathered from the synopsis, it's a pretty short book, and the UK cover looks absolutely stunning. It's one of the very rare cases where I like the UK cover more than the US one, so that is definitely one that I'm interested in. It's sort of a bit of a blend of horror and a thriller, but I thought it sounded more thrillerish than it sounded horror-ish, so I decided to include this in this category. And that is it for July. I think this is the most new releases that I have ever covered in one of these videos, unless I'm mistaken. And truly, July is going to be a very packed month of really exciting releases in every possible genre. So my no buy is not helping me in any shape or form because, to be honest with you, when I was doing this video, I just kept adding and adding and adding to my TBR. So I'll see if my no buy survives July. I'm very hopeful, with the exception of Lisa Jewell. I think I might have to pick that one up when I go to the event. But let me know if you are looking forward to any of these books, if you have already read any of these books, maybe as an ARC, or maybe you live in US and you had an earlier release. So please let me know if you liked any of them, if you hated any of them. And if you loved this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see these more, I do post them every single month. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.